to order. We'll start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, can the secretary call the roll?
Yes. President Schultz,
Present.
Secretary Treasurer Welker.
Here.
Trustee Warner is absent. Trustee Pell is going to be late, and Trustee Horowitz.
Here.
Sir, we have a quorum present this afternoon.
Okay, very good. So the next trustee meeting, the work session's on February 5th, 2020, and the regular meeting, February 12th, 2020, at 1 o'clock. So we have, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes for the regular meeting of January 13th, 2020, and the special meeting of January 16th, 2020? If there's no additions or corrections, I'll
not
make a
heard.
motion that we accept those.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move Mr. Pell's discussion till when he gets here. So start with the first public hearing for Stephen Malcolmson on 72 Far Pond Road, Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-272-1-21.5, Shinnecock Bay. Anybody here to speak in favor of it?
Jim Walker.
I'll second the opening of the public hearing.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Take my coat off. Since the time of the last public hearing, trustees have discussed the project with the property owner, and we need time to consider what the trustees may bring to the table and get back to the town and the state. So we're expecting to receive input from the trustees and then continue the public hearing at some time in the future.
Okay.
I have Steve Malcolmson here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just say a word just in terms of, some of the planning that I think is going into the, a sort of compromise or comprehensive solution that, we very much look forward to working with the trustees in terms of, finding a solution that serves, both me in terms of protection of the house, but also public access and restoration of the beach, et cetera, et cetera. So, with that in mind, I guess it makes sense to, from our point of view, to table consideration of our proposal until we have a, bigger idea of how the, full picture is going to evolve.
Okay. So right now, I can speak to what's going on right now. We've been in discussions with the Suffolk County DPW because they hold the permit for the dredging of the creek right next door to you. And we've had a discussion with Robert Young. He's been on site, and you guys are aware of that. And been in discussions with DEC about modifying the permit to allow some of the dredged material that's dewatered to be placed on that beach on a limited basis until we get a better feel for how the erosion is taking place in the area, so we can eliminate the possibility of you further armoring your shorefront and at the end of the road to raise the whole level back and to achieve the public access. So we're working on that right now. We should be should have something within a couple of weeks and want to move forward on it. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where we are right now. Want to eliminate more hardened structures in the area. So is there anybody here to speak on the project, against, for, or against?
Hey, Eric, can you pull that closer to you?
Good afternoon. Kevin McAllister, President of Defend H2O. Eric, my comments back in November, of course, predate your appearance on the board. I won't repeat much of I said, but I will emphasize what is key here is sand management, inlet management. And that's something that has been I'll say wanting throughout the east end, really due to no one's fault, but we have done a very poor job of placing sediments where they need to go. And in this case, I think we're dealing with high-quality beach sand. So realigning that inlet, using that material to bolster that shorefront, and refraining from further armoring, because we clearly see the effects of what's happening. And I think I referred to, connecting the dots over time. More armoring leads to more armoring, the end scour effect. So let's avoid the armoring and do all you can to place sand there. And honestly, with high-quality sand, I wouldn't worry too much about the turbidity problems or water quality issues. I think some best management practices to keep the material in place and allow de-water, that's effective application of the material. Thank you.
Well, what we were talking about was using the sand that was taken out of the system already to replenish the beach.
Yes.
To dewater it in the locations that the county has now, and then transporting it over to that site. And then when dredging needs to be done next time, that the inlet should be moved further to the west to enlarge that beach for more public access and to avoid further armoring of the shore. Marty?
Good afternoon, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. I also want to indicate that the town is highly supportive of working with the trustees towards a more comprehensive solution to the erosion issues there. As everyone is aware, and as was mentioned, what's needed here is significant renourishment, so that there is no need to entertain any plan for further armoring of the shoreline. I would also mention that in the event that applicant decides to go forward with the current plan, based upon my review of the plan, the rock placement would appear to be outside of the trustees' jurisdiction, as it looks like the current plan calls for placement of rock landward of mean high water. And as such, if the applicant decides to pursue that plan, they need to make application to the Conservation Board of the town. But right now, it looks like the consensus is a good one, in that everyone here has an interest in working towards a more comprehensive solution involving placement of sand. Thank you.
Great, thanks for your comments. Mr. Greger.
Alex Greger, Highway Superintendent. Mr. Schultz, you weren't here when I was at the last meeting in November, and I just wanted to, again, state that we lost about 71 feet of road there, and the town road endings are important access to the beach. Now, on the other side of the gentleman's house, there's an extensive, very wide beach, but there's no access to it except over private property. And that's what I believe the town road endings and the trustee beaches were meant to accomplish, to join the two together. And secondly, I'm very concerned that that's at the highest point. When you go back north of that, where the road ends now, is downhill. And on excessive storms, we do get flooding down there. And that's problematic. And the only way we see how that can be mitigated to a degree is to try to put some kind of road or a little something, because we were out there 2 weeks ago and see it's undermining again. We have many of these road endings that are getting beat up more or less from sea level rise and storms. We have to at times put sand down just so that there's a safe drop off. It's sacrificial sand, but that's what we do. It's within the DEC's allowable actions. But what we're concerned about there, where the road ends now, is at the high points. And when there's a northeaster, or even when we were there on that westerly wind, the tide was quite high there. And it doesn't take much for it to go over that hump and then go down to the north into that low spot. And there is not a lot of opportunities to put drainage in because it's so close to groundwater, mucky soils. There might have been some historic filling back in there, but this is a problem, and we really take it seriously that people can access the beach, and we look forward to working together with all parties to come up with a solution.
So just have a quick question for you. Then, if we intend on raising up the level of the beach, that's going to prevent some of the erosion problems that we have down there. But if it does overtop that in the high water, should we be talking to the DEC about some sort of sluice way to drain that lower spot? Is that going to accomplish anything?
Well, there are some houses to the north on the westerly side. There might be difficult to sluice it out of the way. But if we could have a little bit more of a road ending, even if we could park 2 cars, that it would be out of the way of the gentleman's driveway, so
Right.
he could get in,
Right.
and the neighbors can get in, and then people could have an opportunity to park and enjoy. As you know, a lot of people just like to sit at the road endings and eat lunch in their vehicle.
Right.
A lot of people like to come down and watch the birds, so we would just like to try to have that opportunity still, and I think there's something that can be, where we have these rock revetments and bulkheadings, we always have trouble.
Right.
We don't like to bulkhead our road endings. As you know, we work together at the road endings, and we put up bulkheads where there's bulkheadings, where there's significant drop-off. I don't think we've added a bulkhead where there hasn't been one. So that's what we're trying to do, and we look forward for everyone working together to come up with some solution. And nothing's going to permanently fix the situation. It's always going to require a certain amount of maintenance and renourishing and that. So that's all I have to say, and I wish you all luck, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Alex.
Anyone else have any comments? Okay, now we just have to discuss, we're going to, I want to make a motion that we adjourn this to a later date, but we have to decide on what's appropriate and how, till we get answers from the DEC. So,
Next regular meeting's February 12th. After that, March 2nd. Next meeting after that, March 16th.
what do you think,
We
March
have a
16th?
night meeting on the 23rd,
Okay,
and then we're into April.
Because we only have one meeting in
right, I think
February.
we should have something solid by March, don't you
March
think that?
16th.
March 16th, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, make the motion that we adjourn this meeting to March 16th.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, might be some developments before that, so I'll keep you all apprised, okay?
Great, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so the next public hearing regards the application of DOC VOSCI LLC, 315 Royal Avenue, Flanders. Make a motion that we open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody here to speak for it?
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is Aram Tertunian, First Coastal Corporation, West Hampton Beach, New York, on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you.
This is a continuation of a public hearing that was initiated last year. This involves an existing situation where an applicant undertook self-help. He was issued a notice of a notice to cure from the Bay Constable. As a result of that, First Coastal was engaged, and we prepared a plan to realign and construct a sand-covered rock revetment, as well as to replace an existing timber jetty that extends out on the canal that's to the west of this property. I'm hoping you all have the file in front of you. I have a diagram I can show you to give you some, just to orient you. This, I believe, already exists in the file. It's just a compilation of two aerial photos. One's from 2001, and another one from 2018. And you can see that there's been a substantial erosion of this property. It adjoins, I believe it's Evergreen Avenue. No, Royal Avenue, sorry. It adjoins Royal Avenue to the east, and a canal to the west. There's a combination plan here in the sense of the existing timber jetty is deteriorating, needs to be replaced. That will help to hold the sand in front of this property, as opposed to it going into the canal, which happens on these canals all the time. And the rocks are to be aligned along the mean high water line and to be covered with sand. And then I believe that it was brought up by the trustees and agreed to by my client that they would maintain the sand cover on top of the rocks. I won't speak for the town highway department since the superintendent is here, but it's my understanding that sand accumulates in the roadway over the winter, and then that sand is removed from the roadway and has been traditionally placed at or around the same location as our project, and those two activities would be compatible.
So you were handling this before, you have any questions for him?
The only thing I noticed was the rocks that are placed now, that were undertaken in self-help, not only are parallel to the beach, but are also perpendicular to the beach along the property line.
Right.
So what's to be done with them? Because they're restricting beach access for the residents of the community.
I believe that you have a revised site plan in your file. And I will have to look at mine to...
Okay.
answer your question. So, if you look on the site plan,
What's the date on that?
the original was 6/5/19, but it was revised. I'm looking for the revised one, which I believe is right here. No, that still says 6/5/19.
That's the 6/5/19.
Is that the latest one you have in your file?
6/5/19.
That must be it then.
Okay.
So, in this situation,
Okay.
the gray represents the rocks that are currently in place, and you can see that they extend farther seaward than what we propose. And then the red and yellow colored crosshatch are what we're proposing. The only area that is perpendicular to the beach is the area landward of the general line of the beach, and as you can see, we're moving it back as opposed to seaward. We're moving it landward.
I have a question for you. Last time I was in discussion with the landowner, that I was under the impression that was two separate lots. And
Yeah.
Okay, so where is the lot? This is on a different lot than the house lot, isn't it?
Well, no, it was two separate lots, and then the land eroded through the property line.
Okay.
And so now it's all one. That land out there belonged to the homeowners association, where you see on this aerial photo all the land that's missing.
Right, right.
This extended quite a bit farther seaward even than in 2001.
Right.
And that was on a separate lot.
His was a separate lot. He had two separate lots.
So-
Oh, he had two separate lots. No, those are joined.
He joined them?
Yes, that's in your file.
Okay. Second is the retaining wall still present on this site?
No retaining wall.
No old retaining wall left?
No.
He took that out too?
Yeah.
It was right alongside the driveway. This was 3 years ago.
I don't recall seeing one there, and I don't see it on the survey.
The
But I would.
rocks are so big that,
This is actually,
There.
this is the revised plan. There was a revised plan done on 9/20. This would be September 20th. And the revision was merely to add the reconstruction of the timber jetty. And here's the cross-section and the plan. So this plan was updated to this plan. You should have this plan in your file. It was sent to you
Okay.
October 1st.
Well, I think it's important that that's reconstructed there. That wing there is terrible shape.
Yeah, and this is what's holding this whole beach.
Mhm. Right.
Wing's dangerous now.
Yeah, we actually repaired that.
Should stamp that in.
Well, you have
we
this.
have
This
this.
is in your
This-
file.
Yeah, we have this, and we have it
Okay.
updated too. I had brought forth at the last public hearing the possibility of a living shoreline. And I still think that that's a valid option because those rocks could be moved off the beach out into the bay and spread them along so that they would go from the end of this bulkhead on the property owner's, on the property of the property owner to the other bulkhead. So
Well-
that would, I realize that you're working with the road ends there with
Right.
the highway department. But you're also opening up access to the residents of the community by doing that. And that's an important part of this discussion.
Well, it is an important part of the discussion, and I believe we are able to provide access with the plan that's in front of you, because the reconstruction of the wing, as Mr. Schultz has described it, is the thing that's holding that beach together. And the rocks, once they're covered with sand, will only be exposed during a major storm, and the applicant has agreed to recover them. So there's, living shoreline is an alternative. It's much more expensive, and we have to go across what is ostensibly town property, and so we'd have to coordinate that with the town highway department. But we can achieve the goal that you want with the plan that's in front of you.
And I got pictures of the wall here.
Karen,
can
you
see
have a copy of the survey? I'm gonna cover the property lines right here.
You can see the dangerous condition of the wing wall right now. It's
Yeah, it was
It's a hazard.
destroyed. It was, a couple of years ago, it was in halfway decent shape with a couple of staves missing.
I don't see anything that underneath this line.
No,
somewhere?
no, it was up further up here.
Further up.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look. Yeah, well, just part of jurisdiction anyway. Okay. All right. Do you have any further questions for him, Bill? Do you have any further questions for him
No.
right now? Okay, anybody here to speak in favor or against this, or further comments? Okay, Marty Shea.
Good afternoon again. I'm Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. I would recommend that the unauthorized rocks and boulders be removed from this site as they pose a threat to the natural resources. I don't see the house in any emergency or immediate jeopardy that would warrant this type of armoring on the shoreline. What the town is in favor in these situations is for practicable alternatives to be explored, namely natural shoreline restoration measures. In this case, I would recommend that if the landowner is concerned about lost property and continuing erosion, that they opt for placement of significant quantities of beach compatible cobble with sand. There may be an opportunity to create a minor bayside dune feature on this property with compatible sand as well, and also to plant the area with beach grass. Even though the applicant has indicated that he's committed to continual burial of the boulders, that can become very difficult when the boulders get exposed. It's upon exposure that I have the most concerns about risk to natural resources. When you have a wall of rock, they can actually have the opposite effect rather than stemming erosion. When you get wave energy crashing onto that rock face and deflected off that, it can take a lot of the sand away, seaweed of those rocks, and begin to drop the beach elevation. When that beach elevation drops, that means every time you have a nor'easter or a significant storm event, the waves are that much higher, that much stronger, and the tidal surge is that much greater. So I think that the applicant needs to revisit this plan and come forward with a plan for a natural shoreline restoration. If you look at the house location, it's at a considerable distance back from the shore. And so in this case, I don't see any need for structural armoring of that shoreline. Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Anyone else wish to speak?
This really should go out further.
Alex. Good afternoon, Bill and Board. Alex Greger, Highway Superintendent.
Initial ones.
This is another one of the town road endings, but this time on the north side in Peconic Bay. I believe the community's water's edge. This is one of the few roads where we don't really have to put sand down because of the erosion and that. The other roads are problematic in the water's edge community there. But in this area, there has been, as I guess reported, that there's some freelancing going on. We've had some issues. There is no real plan with the highway department. There was a phone call about if we do scrape sand off the road, we could put it behind a bulkhead. I certainly wouldn't do that unless I went to the town attorney's office about going on private property. But that road has a minimal amount of sand that blows up on it. And in fact, within maybe 2 years ago, there was a nice little berm, a dune, in front of the road ending.
Right.
But people in the area freelanced and removed that soil, and it was a bit discouraging that whether a lack of communication or a lack of will. But we have nothing in agreement to remove sand off a town road and put it on private property. I mean, we certainly would look at any requests, but we have nothing formal except a phone conversation and one email that they would send us, hold harmless. but we're not really in the business to bring sand to a private property. And this is another problem there. We look back in the highway records, and it seemed like in 1984 there was a terrible storm, and all the sand went on those road endings from the one to the east as far, I'm trying to think of the Long Neck,
Long Neck.
all the way to, what's the furthest one to the west?
So Temple. Sylvan Royal Temple.
Yeah. Those I have a little, if you look at some historic aerials, you'll see Sylvan,
Sylvan.
that there's remnants of an old road that used to extend out significantly further. And part of it was that sand in '84 was removed and not put back. But you all know when it blows hard northwest wind, it's coming across from Aquabog and Riverhead and just coming right on that shoreline. It's another case where we would think that whole area down there would need to be elevated about 1.5 feet to try to keep up with the sea level rise, and that's certainly not practical. There was talk about raising the roads, but if you raise the roads higher than the house, now you got your runoff going to the houses, which is very problematic. So there is no real agreement. That's one road where we don't have to put much sand down, and we look to work with the trustees and the homeowners in the area. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks. Anyone else?
Sure.
Hi, excuse me. My name is Lorraine Pacelio. I'm from Bayview Pine Civic Association, and it's our organization that first reported these rocks appearing out of nowhere on this beach. And that's what we're concerned with a lot of things, as everybody else has brought to the attention of the trustees, but mostly it's because of this self-help situation. People in our neighborhood think they can do anything they want. I'd like to know what fines have been assessed against the homeowners and the people that have placed the rock there, because our coming to complain about it is not the way that I believe the law should work. When I want to do something at my home, I apply for a permit, I get the proper notifications out, and I get it approved, and I pay my fee, and I get my work done. I'd like to see, I've requested it, but I've received nothing in reply of what fines this homeowner has received for putting all this rock on the beach.
Okay.
There are other measures or the things that can be done to protect that area. As it was mentioned, we should have beach replenishment, which is what happens at the Long Neck Boulevard Beach. And I believe the trustees are the people that protect our natural resources, and that is what we expect from you. Our members want the trustees to uphold the laws and protect our natural resources. We understand that the town's position, as Marty Shea said, there is no hard shoring to protect these natural resources, and we ask that you uphold these laws. There is no immediate risk to the house there or the property nearby, and as the highway super has indicated, there's no problems with sand coming up on that street, so there's not as much risk there as there are in other areas of the neighborhood. So to allow this would be against all odds, I guess you would say. There's also, I believe, I've looked up other surveys in the past in that area, and there were environmental surveys and permit applications that had to be done by a lot of different departments, and none of that was done. I don't know why, but I would think that that would be required. So in closing, I just want to ask again that you protect our beach, our area, and stop this illegal placement and rock on our properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Bill, how are you? Kevin McAllister, Defend H2O. As this board knows, certainly I've been speaking to shoreline hardening for quite some time, and I pay attention to the aerial photo trends, environmental notice bulletins, and I'll just resonate the point that it's alarming, the number of structures coming in. And, I know it's very difficult. I'm taking a 30,000-foot view. The board, of course, has its framework to its, regulations, its guidelines. So you're in a different position. But it's particularly concerning when the structures come in illegally without any environmental review. I think that's very problematic. I will resonate the points that Marty made. I think he articulated very well. Even in this community, and you can see over time, obviously, I think these canals were actually dug for fill rather than access because of low elevations through here. There's prominent bulkheads around the point. Of course, the canals, we hear about the jetty. There's a lot of structure here, but this is one location that there is reasonable access to get out of your car, to walk down from the neighborhood and stroll the beach. The stones, you can put the sand over them, you can call them anything you want. It is a structure, of course, and over time, we will lose that fronting beach, so there'll be zero access. So to Marty's suggestion about sand only with trying to anchor that in with revegetation, firmly support that. It continues the public access. And you had questioned about a living shoreline. There is potential for a offshore sill that would ultimately retain sand in there, dissipate wave energy. But again, we continue to go down the road of structures. This neighborhood access will be gone. So sand only, and really take the hard line for the installation without proper review. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay. So I just have some questions for Mr. Tertullian. Has any application been made to the DEC involving this?
Yes. Applications made to the DEC, the Army Corps, and the Department of State. We have a general concurrence from the Department of State. We believe this qualifies as a nationwide permit from the Army Corps, and the DEC is under review. I was just looking to see if they had given me anything recently.
Has there been any proposal to straighten out that bulkhead instead of having a wing wall and then maybe lengthening it a little bit? So you do have the, because you're going to, if sand does build up there, you're only going to be limited to how far that
Yeah.
bulkhead goes out. What's your application?
Our application is in-kind, in place, mostly because we think from a regulatory point of view, it's going to be way more difficult to expand that type of structure unless we can demonstrate that it's filled to capacity.
What about straightening it out?
Didn't think about straightening it out, but I think the angle on it's good. That's my general opinion. I don't think straightening it would give us a substantial increase in the trapping ability. Lengthening it would.
Yeah, lengthening would, as
But it's also
on the other side.
Right. Well, that's the other thing is that, if we were able to retain sand to the limit of the existing structure, then we could ask to extend it, which would make sense at that point.
All right. But then you're going to have to extend it out on a 45-degree angle instead of going out straight.
I'll review that with my client. I don't personally have an objection other than the fact that it's going to change the environmental review from an in-kind, in-place replacement to new, and that's going to, it's going to change the complexion of the review.
Well, you wouldn't mind us having discussions with the DEC about that
course
possibility,
not.
though, right?
No.
Okay. Because I think it would be more effective if it was straight out.
Okay.
And then, if you did have the opportunity to enlarge it, you wouldn't have to make a dog leg out of it instead of going
Right.
straight out.
No, I get your
Go
point.
straight out.
Yep.
No, I think probably what we're aiming for is the beach that's between Royal and Temple. If you take a look at that, there's a substantial amount of marine vegetation on there that provides a buffer. It's grown tremendously in the last couple of years, and that's pretty much stabilized that beach right there. So we'll talk to the DEC about that.
Okay. I would, since I'm right here, just appreciate the opportunity to address a couple of points that have been brought up. One of the things that we have to keep in mind is that, if we were able to retain sand to the limit of the existing structure, then we could ask to extend it, which would make sense at that point. I think that there's a discontinuity in what both Marty and Kevin are saying. On one hand, they're saying, just put down sand, do beach restoration, that'll be fine, everything will be great. And on the other hand, they're saying, there's no possible way that you can keep the rocks covered with sand. Well, it's either one or the other. Either we can keep them covered or we can't. You know, if sand alone is going to work and it's not going to wash away in a storm, then we're going to be able to keep the rocks covered with sand. And the object of the rocks is the protection during the storm event. It's not day-to-day. Object day-to-day is you never see them. They're buried. And you only see them when there's a storm that impacts the beach, then you come back and you restore it. On a day-to-day basis, we'll be able to maintain a beach there, because with this winged jetty that we're talking about, or straight, whatever the final design is, that will hold a nice little log spiral beach. On the other hand, during a storm, sand is mobile. Sand will move. It will erode. There's already been restoration projects done here where all the sand has eroded away during a storm. So I think that the alternative of beach nourishment only is very short-sighted. It's not completely thought out and provides no storm protection of a meaningful level, whereas our plan does provide both storm protection and protects the beach. That's number one. Number two, it's been brought up that there's no threat to the structure. Well, pardon me, but the time to fix the roof is when the sun is shining. We don't want to get into a critical situation and come in and say, now, well, we absolutely have to do this. I think the whole object of environmental protection is to look ahead, to look at what's happened in the past, to project it forward in a reasonable manner, to undertake an evaluation of alternatives, and to act now, before it's late. I mean, one of the axioms of wetlands preservation is we want to keep the house, in the case of Southampton, 100 to 125 feet from the wetland. So let's not let the wetland erode to 20 feet from the house when we decide to act. Let's act now.
So how about taking the stones and moving them back 60 feet, right along this ridge right here, and then do a beach nourishment?
I'll bring it up to my client, but if you were him, I don't think you'd want to do that. Why don't you just give up half your property? I mean, he's already lost a substantial amount of property. He's the only property in the neighborhood for, I bet you, within a mile that doesn't have some kind of structure. I mean, everything down here has been bulkheaded for decades, decades upon decades.
And that causes a lot of trouble.
Okay, so he's the last guy, all right? And so what happens? So because you're the last guy, now we're going to apply a whole new standard to you, which is punitive, and by the way, doesn't work. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's equitable. I don't think it's reasonable.
So that's the chance of
Okay.
support.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes.
Sure.
The owner of the property, how long has this person or corporation owned the property? Approximately.
That I simply can't answer that. I know that the individual I spoke with, Mr. Ketchian, has been a resident on this property for 50 years.
That long term.
Right, that's what I was trying to figure. I just saw the ownership had changed in
Right.
April of 2019.
Yeah.
But that's still the same person?
Same
just
person.
LLC?
Same person,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can attest he's been there a long time.
So, tell me how you want to move forward. I want to close the hearing and you guys decide, and unless you tell me there's something that you want to do.
I think there's no additional information needed.
Is there anyone else from the community who wishes to speak, or are you?
There are other people, but they're not able to make it today.
We have a night meeting in the latter part of March. I
23rd.
think this community is the one who alerted us to this, and I think they deserve the right to speak. It's difficult for them to come during the day. They've repeatedly stated that. Lorraine is here today, but there are many other people.
Okay, well, it might be resolved by then, as far as different alternatives that we can present to the people. Are everybody good with adjourning it till that
I'm
date?
fine.
Well, you know what, I'm good to a solution that solves the problem for both the applicant and for the general public. I'm in the solutions
Okay.
business.
Sure.
I'm not in the business of
So are we, so-
extending hearings on and on so people can be heard. I mean, I think facts here are pretty straightforward.
No, but it's
I'll
difficult.
do
It's a
all-
working-class community, and it's
Yeah.
very difficult for them to take off a whole day to
I
express
operate
their
at the board's
views.
leisure.
So, I think the night meeting would be appropriate on that. Allow them the opportunity. It might be straightened out by then as far as, alternatives that we can bring to them. We'll consult with the highway superintendent and other people and the DEC and see if we can come up with some creative solution to this.
If we can come up with a solution that is reasonable and has, basis in proven performance, then I can back that up with my client. What I
Okay.
can't do is go to my client and say, this is the only thing they're going to let you do, and it's not going to work. That I don't think I'm fulfilling my duty as a professional if I do that.
We just need to keep in mind, though, Mr. Tertunian, that your client did take it upon himself
Absolutely.
to install these rocks, and now he's backing into it, so we just have to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to speak.
Right. Okay, what was the date on that, March?
March 23rd at 7 PM, and that would be at the Hampton Bays Senior Center on Ponquag Avenue.
Okay, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting to that day.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so we'll go into the public portion. So Aram, don't leave yet. Okay. Go into the public portion. I'd just like to discuss where we are with Round Dune and give us an update on that.
With Round Dune, the 4 courses of geocubes have been installed. I don't know if we've started the backfilling and covering operation,
No, not yet.
but as of Friday, all 4 courses were installed, and that's where we are.
The deck
The deck is in the process, we're just waiting for the client to approve our work order, so we can go ahead and take that out.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
That
We understood that was gonna be done sooner.
Well, it was kind of tough to operate, it was underwater part of the time.
The equipment's still down there, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that was the whole thing, was about mobilization of the equipment. So now that the equipment's readily available, I would say they should be able to approve whatever they need to approve with you and
Yeah.
get that out of the easement.
Hopefully we'll get an answer this week and get to work on that.
Right, however, I do have a concern about the storage of some of the machinery on the roadway. You're aware that we just repaved that road, and there's some tracked vehicles that are driving on the asphalt, and there's hydraulic fluid leaking onto the asphalt. So, and the other thing was that there's a substantial amount of sand placed in a line along the edge of the road that is going into the beach grass. So we're going to need some sort of plan on how that's going to be restored.
Okay, I can commit to you that we will restore that. We'll figure out how to do it, and I'll let you know.
Okay. But the tracked vehicles on the asphalt is without any protection, any plywood or any type of, any protection on that is not too good with, especially, there's not a really heavy base under that road, and it was just repaved. So, at a large cost.
I will get you answers on that right away.
All right. How long are the excavators and the wheeled machines going to be there?
I don't know the answer to that,
Well, I
certainly
mean,
for another week or
generally.
two.
Oh. Okay.
I want to see that deck go, that's right in
Oh,
the
yeah,
middle of the
right,
easement, so I'm
right, right.
gonna need that equipment.
Okay, so you're going to continue to dump loads of sand on the road and scrape it up? Okay.
Yeah, I think our total is 2,500 yards. I think that's what our permit's for.
Okay.
To your knowledge, has the performance bond been completely funded?
I don't know the answer to that.
Who do we inquire?
That would be Karen Hoag, who is the attorney with Toomey Latham Shea. She's the one who made that arrangement.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it, Dan.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else wish to speak in the public portion? Oh, okay, I see you. Go ahead, go ahead. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to steal any Bill's thunder because I know you're on the agenda for Agawam, but I would like to share some thoughts that I've been putting forth with respect to remediation. As a preface, as the former baykeeper, I was certainly involved with Agawam's condition over the years. I've been before this board. Ultimately commissioning a study by Pio Lombardo to examine remedies for dealing with Agawam. Between Dr. Gobler's work, Nelson Pope and Voorhees, Lombardo report, it's pretty clear the sediment flux, the nutrients from the bottom, organics, is a significant source, of course, of phosphorus as a limiting nutrient in freshwater systems. That's what we need to be concerned about. And there's a contribution of nitrogen to a lesser degree. I firmly believe to have any true remedy to Agawam that the pond has to be dredged, that we have to remove the organics. I want to just advance my thinking on this. While we're starting to talk about dredging, and it's in actually some of the plans, we're talking about dewatering and then ultimately trucking off. And without knowing the true volume, and I would argue that Nelson Pope and Voorhees, their analysis or review of the bottom may not be extensive enough for DEC permitting. But with that said, I believe, ultimately the dewatering process, the length of time, the material which may have contaminants. I believe there are some levels of contaminants in the sediments. It's going to make it difficult, extremely costly, and time resistant. The notion of open water discharge, beach discharge, riparian, and in-water discharge, this is provided by the DEC. They have a guidance document on this. I've read this guidance document, and I will share in my prior role in South Florida, I did a great deal of permitting of dredging projects, both the permitting as well as the sponsoring or representing sponsors to the projects. So I know dredging and I know the implications quite well. I believe hydraulic dredging in this area, after a full sediment analysis is done, let's define exactly where the organics exist and to what depth. We need to look at the benthic community if in fact they're, if it's a live bottom or dead bottom, that has some bearing on certainly the project as well as mitigation. With DEC's regs, they allow for some level of contaminants. They classify it as A, B, and C. Ultimately, I think the only one's precluded if the levels are extremely high. And that needs to be ascertained. Again, the discharge into the beach being predominantly fines and organics, you're going to have that material run in the dead of the winter. I would argue there's minimal implications, obviously turbidity problems, the concern about the cyanobacteria. It's a freshwater species. I've looked at some of the research in ocean salinity levels. It's short-lived. So I think that's a non-factor. We've seen prior permits that have been issued, the commercial docks roughly 10 or 15 years ago. They did on-beach discharge to basically deepen the marine basins in that area. And, it was highly questionable material, and I'll say the smell of fuels, of course, would knock you over. So, this is not unprecedented. So I, again, as stewards, as managers of this resource, I urge you to further explore open water discharge in the dead of the winter. And again, I think without knowing volumes, the length of time or the duration of the project remains to be seen. But if we don't at least explore the steps, and we're just taking as whole cloth that this is not possible, I'm telling you that it is possible because I've permitted such projects in the past. And DEC has, again, very clear criteria for allowance with acknowledgement of open water discharge and riparian discharge, beach discharge. So, at first blush, it'd strike, I'll say, some as being, oh my gosh, what a pollution mess. Well, dredging is dirty. There is a pollution factor, but again, I think the short-term impacts for long-term gain is worth exploring. And that's really what I'm leaving with. Don't close the door on the idea. Let's go through the steps to examine if this is possible. And if it is, it'll certainly be quick. It won't be inexpensive. But the other alternatives, or I should say the other remedies, with wastewater treatment, et cetera, that's a long-term prospect. And even with those in place, if we're not dealing with the rich organic sediments, the flux will be a continuous problem. And I will say that we will never fix the problem. So thanks for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Sure, it's a public portion. You say anything you want.
Sure.
My name is Carol Morse.
Wait, just wait until you get to the microphone.
Okay, my name is Carol Morse, and I'm here to talk about the old Mayo property and the Suffolk County Park that is on Edge of Woods Road. From Edge of Woods Road, there's access to the park through Hampton Park Road. The new owners of the old Mayo property have gated that public access off, so we can no longer access the ponds or the wetlands on that property. They have also taken a pond that's been there, according to the USGS survey, since 1930, and lined it with cement. They have taken the stream that ran from one pond to the other and rerouted it underground. He's a developer, and this would allow him to not have to go by wetland setbacks. He's also cleared all the forested land on the west side of the property and at least an acre of land that belongs to the county. And he's taken the wood and piled it along the property line so you can no longer walk along the property line to go into the field. I like to walk my dog there. And if you do, he wants you to park alongside Major's Path, where there other access to the county land is, and it's very dangerous there. You have all the garbage trucks and all the trucks and stuff. It's very dangerous to get your dog in and out of the car, to get yourself in and out of the parking area. But if you go in through Hampton Park Road, and the gate is open, or even if it isn't open and you walk down there, his caretaker threatens you. And I've said to him on several occasions to please call the police if I was trespassing. But they don't call the police. They literally threaten you. Luckily, I have an 82-pound pit bull, so nobody puts their hands on me. But the whole thing is just out of control. And so now that they have, and I complained and got a no work order from upstairs, and they worked right through the whole no work order. And the police would come and make them stop, and within 2 hours they'd be working again. And it just seems like somebody's got to, do something about this.
Rich might be able to look that up.
Trying, what's the exact address?
Well,
What's the address of the name?
Wait, the 443 North Sea Mecox Road is the north, this side of it, yeah.
Could I see
And-
that little map you have there?
Yeah.
please?
oh yeah, that would
I'll
help.
give it back.
I have it, I got it off the internet. It's a USGS survey.
That's
And we're talking about, if I could show you, this is actually now Edge of Woods Road, and you see these two ponds here?
Yeah,
This one is now a cement swimming pool.
okay.
He literally, and I've been on the property for many years. I have many pictures of the ponds and the streams, and they're all gone now. And you can see when you go onto the property where the stream eroded, so that the land goes up and you're actually walking in the stream, what used to be the stream bed, that's not there anymore.
But that address that you gave was not the property, it's the adjoining property, right?
Well, it's the adjoining property, but it's the right hand of that private road. It goes all the way from North Sea Mecox Road, almost to Edge of Woods Road. And the land next door used to be Gloria Deal, and she sold the right-of-way and the 75 acres to the county as parkland, and on that parkland is a pond. And that used to be fed by a stream that comes, there's a freshwater spring, and then there's like a driveway that it goes through, and then it went down to a pond, and then it went down to a wetland, and then it continued down to another pond. And now the wetland's gone, the stream is gone, and there's like this kind of cementy-looking swimming pool surrounded by rocks. That is
Okay.
now what used to be a pond.
You're still in code.
And I just wanted to bring that to,
Very much so.
All right, well, you came
Somebody's
to the right,
attention.
well, you came to the right place because this is the attorney for code enforcement also, so he's
Yeah,
he's
I-
looking it up, and we'll talk to Marty Shea.
yeah,
We'll
because I've been
coordinate.
upstairs while they were doing it, I don't know how many times, so
And Mike Benincas's office has already issued a stop work order on the property?
had issued a stop work order on the property, they worked right through it. Now they're not working, they're waiting. I was told they're waiting for a few years to finish their subdivision because they don't want people to go back and look at aerial photos and see all this. The clearing is unbelievable. I mean, you used to be able to get out of your car and walk to the which a huge field where the deer are, where there's a pond. You can't anymore because all the trees they took down, they piled up. So it's like a 10-foot pile of a 10-foot tree fence.
Do you mind if I come up to show you this? Or you can come up here if you want. I put in the address, you said 443
Okay.
Meecox Road. So
This-
you go see Meecox Road.
Yes, yes, I know exactly where we are.
Yes.
Call Marty back there.
This is what they did.
Well, I think we
See
need to
that?
get some information on it first.
He
too.
might have it, Marty might have it.
This used to be.
James,
Go slow.
can you get
This
Marty?
used to be just a
Can you
regular
ask him if he can
pond.
come down for a minute?
And this little stream here used to go all
Thanks.
the way down.
There's wetlands out on this.
Oh, there's wetlands, there used to be wetlands here.
Yep, that's it. See the blue?
There used to be wetlands here.
This is all this one parcel here.
Uh-huh, and this, there
You
used
know
to
what-
be
you know the
stream that
property,
went all
Bill?
the way to here.
Yeah.
The stream has been rerouted underground. All these wetlands are gone,
North of the,
and
landfill or
everything's been
south?
cleared.
This is.
Okay.
Yeah, coming to, yeah, it's Rayner and Eccles. But if
How
you-
long ago
Okay.
was the stop work order issued, you know?
Approximately a year ago.
Oh.
And this used to all
West
be
side
woods.
of
This all here was wooded
Major's
land.
Path,
And now it's
That's
not
the
anymore.
east
If you
side.
go back,
east side?
can you go
Okay.
back to previous years?
Okay.
I
See?
see it, yep.
See, that used to all be woods.
I'll talk to
And see the
Benincasa,
stream?
See what we can do on this.
Can you see the stream that runs through? That was a stream. It ran all the way through, from this pond all the way down to that pond.
I see
But
it.
now it's gone.
Thank you for bringing my attention.
Okay,
Speak
so,
to Mike.
tell you what.
There's
Marty.
Excuse me. Write down your telephone number for the secretary,
Okay.
and then we'll contact you. Just don't put it on the air.
MORC?
Yep.
Okay.
How's this,
Okay.
is this yours here?
I just think it's, they're,
Yes, she said she had other
they've gotten
copies.
slightly out of control.
Okay.
And somebody's gonna, need to make.
So Marty, can you come up for a second?
Thanks for coming down, Marty.
Thank you.
Well, why don't you stay for a second,
Yeah.
miss? Because
Maybe
this lady here is reporting a major disturbance to some ponds and tree cutting up by Major's Path. Are you familiar with that? She can tell you. Why don't you
Yeah,
tell him
maybe
exactly?
you could speak to that and
Come
give
on up
me,
to- come on up again.
site-specific
Marty. Marty, I got it.
Yeah, stay by the microphone, Marty. You can just the two of you.
Yeah, go over there, Bridge. Yeah, Go show 'em.
Because we're limited to what's on tape here because of we're in this room down here.
This is the property. This, if you go back,
I think we're actually looking at the older.
It was the Mayo property.
it was the
Marty,
Mayo property.
If that means anything.
This pond
Area here.
used to be a pond.
Yes.
It's not a pond anymore. Now it's cement surrounded by rocks. There used to be a stream that came out of this pond that ran to this pond. That's gone.
And that's the county park area.
Yep, this is county park. This used to be wetlands. They're gone. And this all used to be wooded. And all the forest is gone.
Yeah, I can actually speak to that. This is the Kamakudico property in North Sea. It recently received planning board subdivision approval. And while that application was being reviewed, I had advised the planning board that there were pre-existing freshwater wetlands that were destroyed on this property, and that needed to be reclaimed and fully restored as part of any subdivision approval. That being said, the planning board opted not to require wetlands reclamation on this property.
So we just lost everything, that's it?
So there's no violation, there's no issue, is what you're saying? It's so, you're aware of this and the town's aware of what's going on?
Yes, the planning board has already acted on the subdivision approval for this property.
The subdivision, but...
She is right in that there was a secondary freshwater wetland area with a drainage. She's also right that there was significant unauthorized work that was done on the property, including construction of that second pond, and that there was at least an ephemeral drainage that connected the higher wetlands with the lower ponding area. There was also appeared to be significant tree cutting and clearing of natural vegetation that was also brought to the attention of the planning board. But the planning board has already acted on the subdivision approval.
But that didn't negate the violations, right? Right, Rich? I mean,
I
is it
don't
violations?
see any flags that are sitting on this property. I've heard
And they don't have to
already.
be stored?
The planning board did not require reclamation of the former
What's the
wetlands.
size of the pond in generally, you think?
It was, from best that we could tell, it was probably about maybe a quarter acre or something like that. So,
I'll have to check to see if that's a trustee-owned pond.
yeah, I would guess not.
Is it just a kettle hole or something?
You'll see it on the National Wetlands Inventory that was prepared by the federal government. It was, kind of a naturalized kettle area in the topography. And so there are higher inland freshwater wetlands above this property that drain through this property to a series of ponding areas and a drainage that went down to the lower pond. But we had the Conservation Board also, through its advisory reports, had strongly recommended that any subdivision approval be conditioned upon wetlands reclamation, but as indicated, the planning board opted not to require it.
All right, we'll have to look into this further, so,
Marty.
Thanks,
did you
Marty.
give me a number?
And also, I want to find anything.
So you have to
You have
come
to
up to
speak.
speak
You can't speak
at the microphone.
They didn't take
Sounds
account for like wildlife up there on the ponds?
There was a
One of the major problems with all of this, not requiring all this other stuff, is that they have stopped access. The public can no longer access the pond that is in the pasture because they have, the only way to get there is to walk this convoluted path all the way through the forested land, all the way around and back. You can't, you used to be able to walk along the side, along the property line, and walk down and let your dog play in the field and whatever. But they piled all the dead wood that they've cut now on the county land and made, as I said, a 10-foot fence out of logs this big and 6 feet long that you cannot possibly get around. And I just don't think it's right that we should not be able to, and then you can't park down there without somebody screaming and yelling at you.
Okay.
So
All right, so
I
you
just-
left your phone number, right?
Yes, I left my phone
Okay.
number.
We're caught at a little bit of a loss here, so let us, see what's happening within the town hall, and we can give you a better answer to what's going on.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for coming in.
Just to add some history, I had originally sought to have the landowner cited for violations under Chapter 325 of the town code. But the difficulty with regards to proceeding with enforcement action was that the landowner would not allow me to access the property. So there's a private road going through that area, so there was no ability for me to further document the extent of wetlands damage on that property while the work was proceeding because I was denied access to the property.
That's what I'm talking about. There's a road that comes in from Edgewood Road. You make a left, you go down past that barn there. That is a public road. That's Hampton Park Road. You can look on any tax map. It's on the tax map.
Okay.
And they are denying, yes, they are denying access. And then they put the gate closed and they chain it and they lock it. And that's public access. It's a public road.
All right.
It's Hampton Park Road.
Well, we'll look into that. We'll look into the ownership. Okay, we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
Someone else.
She brought up some other issue, so I just want to say,
Let's see where
my name again is Lorraine Pacelio. I'm from Bayview Pines Civic and Taxpayers Association. And there is some building being done at the end of Long Neck Boulevard Beach. It's at 88 Fantasy Drive. And we've made complaint about it before. If you
House
go-
on the end?
The house on the end, the roundhouse at the end.
Right.
They've actually studded out a room out onto the wetlands. They removed vegetation, chopped down trees, and they've built this big extension. And it's been reported to code enforcement. They've put stop orders in, et cetera, but nothing has been done to, I'd like to know what's being done with that.
Okay, well, let's see if we can get some
Building.
answers here for a
Marty-
second. Just stay there. Stay
Marty,
there.
Marty might know about this. This is the
88
Long Neck-
Fantasy. Do you know anything about
Marty, this is
what the
Con-
status
Marty's
is of
getting
that
a lot of
building that they're
airtime today.
working at the 88 Fantasy, at the end of the roundhouse, at the end of Long Neck Boulevard Beach?
The only thing that I know is that the landowner was cited. He may have actually received multiple citations, and I think the matter is pending in Justice Court right now.
I've got, it says here, there's an open permit on the dwelling, no certificate of occupancy, and needs conservation board approval. Many problems, construction below the base flood elevation exceeding 2 stories. There was a stop work order posted, and it was removed by the property owner, according to our records here. I'm gonna see who it is, see if I've got them in court.
One-stop shopping here.
Yeah.
So it's-
It's not necessarily the trustees.
No, and
Right,
I
right.
would just add that the landowner has yet to file the requisite conservation board wetland permit application in order to rectify those matters.
It's not, I don't know the names being in court yet. It's possible there was a notice of violation, a stop work order issue within the past 30 days. It takes 30 days to get it into court for prosecution. So
Well,
if they
we
haven't done
we
anything, then
have
I'll have...
emailed code enforcement several times, we don't get any response. If somebody can contact our organization, let us know when that court date will be, we
Give me a
would like to
contact
be
info,
there.
I'll call you.
Yeah, just come over here. and-
Sure.
You don't like to put your phone number on the air.
It's about 88 Fantasy.
Yeah, the Lorraine, Baby Pines. 516-672-7187.
I know we spoke on this, that's why I was like, back here.
It was owned by Joseph
That what?
Gentile.
I said I knew that Marty.
This one's here, so
Cool.
So that's the first stop work was posted and removed, so I've been having this guy in
Twice it
court
was posted and removed.
four times. 4 times.
4 times?
Yeah.
Okay?
I'll find out where it is. I'll
Okay.
give you a call, okay?
All right, thanks.
We'll get right on it.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
That's- No, we will. Alex wants to speak.
And then I'll go. Thanks again, Alex Greger, Highway Superintendent. I just wanted to say it's a new year, looking forward to trying to get some projects done that we share interest in. I'd like to tell you that we're trying to apply for Bridge New York again for the Jobs Lane Bridge in Bridgehampton. It's a timber structure. It is 8 tons, and as you know, most construction trucks are 25 to 30 tons, so it's taken a beating. We tried Bridge New York once before. It goes to the governor's budget review team to make the assessment, and the only thing that Long Island got was something in Brookhaven and Suffolk County. So we're going to try that again. But I did want to tell you about a very good, successful drainage project that we did on Little Fresh Pond Road. As you know, we get a lot of concerns around Little Fresh Pond for various reasons, and we took about $100,000 and did some drainage work on Edge of Woods Road where it meets Major's Path, and down in the hole in Little Fresh, we put an awful lot of structures. We were able to find some good sand. In fact, I think I was out at that site with Mr. Harris when we had some issues with people with erosion, sedimentation, runoff. It seems like a lot of people like to do things and then try to ask for forgiveness after it. You know, you can see it and you can't see it. But what we were afraid of is that we were looking at possibly putting in a vortex and discharging the runoff into a Little Fresh Pond. And I know that that would really put everyone's ears up. So I said that we were able to use state money to put extreme winter recovery money to do the Edge of Woods and Major's Path and Little Fresh Pond down at the end. So I'm trying to look to try. There's a lot of things to do, as you see, and not everyone's working in the same direction as we are. But I wanted to let you know about the Job's Lane Bridge, because you know, as sometimes you have the sand issue, and I'm going to have to be a little more, you know, not allowing too much over 8 tons. The town of Southampton does not set the weight limit on the bridges. It's set by New York State. So I merely just put up the signs that the state says is the weight limit. So we need to change that. And the last thing we're starting to work on that I wanted to bring up to you is Bay Avenue East Quad. I talked to the Parks Department today, and they're thinking about going out to replace the bulkhead in front of their little yacht basin, little shack that's there. And we're going to try to take care of our section. Our section isn't dilapidated as bad, and we know that you have the pier at the end, so I was just wondering if you have any timeline about when you were thinking about going there.
Scott was handling that.
Yeah, we do. We were waiting on you. So this is great news, Alex. I'm thrilled because with the town, like you say, doing their front piece and with you doing yours, we have secured, you know, bonding that we worked into our budgeting in the previous years. With the ramp there, we can make a very nice project. We've been band-aiding that. We just sent the guys down there a couple of weeks ago because we had a big sinkhole at the end of the pier. So this is a fantastic collaboration that the community will absolutely be thrilled about.
Yeah, we have McLean now looking at a conceptual design, and then we'll see if it goes to the point where we'd have to get a permit from the regular agencies, including yourself. But we're going to try to and definitely improve our section. The Parks needs to do theirs first, so I think the timeline will work. So I just wanted to let you know. And we have problems too with the planning board. Making
wait 1 second.
recommendations and them not being.
I got a lot of pictures. I went down
and
there.
not being.
No, I wanted to ask you a
not
question.
being
Where are we
utilized.
as far as
We
the
waive any permits,
permits? Do we
fees
have
for you guys.
a consultant?
Yes, we have cash and already. We jumped on board with the Parks Department. We collaborated with the Parks Department.
There was a big plan to do it all,
Yeah.
but we looked at it and we assessed our
Okay.
part along Bay Avenue, and it doesn't need to be totally replaced.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to probably make a cap on top of it to stay with the same height, because the Parks is going to raise it. I think that DEC gives you 18 inches that you can go up higher than what's existing without big.
Well,
So
they
we're
haven't,
gonna
they haven't
try
come
to
to
do-
us as far as for the bulkhead application
Yeah,
yet.
Oh, Parks?
We did that already.
You did the Parks one already?
We did
Okay.
the Parks
Yeah,
one.
okay.
I think it's been in their hopper for a while.
Okay, okay.
Because it's a little, and they talk about maybe a little bit of dredging in September is their
They're gonna do,
window.
yeah, dredging in the fall. I went over there with
Yeah.
my little boat and I took a lot of pictures at the intertidal zone of that
Amazing.
entire pier, which I
Right.
could share with
I
you.
don't think we want
There's
18
big
inches
rotten
long.
sections at the intertidal zone down low when you're looking
Okay.
back at the sheathing. So it's
to
still
look at.
standing pretty true, but the material itself it's shot.
Washing through. Yeah.
Right, so I mean, if we shore guarded the whole thing and bolstered it up, we would get, we could
20,
get-
30, 50-year.
you could get half a century out of that
Yeah.
thing, yeah, and the community does use that a lot from a recreational and a commercial
Yeah.
standpoint. So it's a great project, I'm looking forward to working with you on
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we're trying to do as much as we can. We certainly could use more funding. So if you're seeing funding opportunities, we try. We do have some success, but there's a lot to do, and there's a little bit of money. And the rain is our enemy.
Yes.
The rain.
No, it is down there.
The only thing I could ask you to put your thinking hat on is Dune Road, Bridgehampton. We were down there, and everyone knocked down their little house on locust posts, and there's lack of a better word, statements along. And everyone have raised their grade, and now the road is lower than everything, and the water gets channelized in the road. 1987, our highway record said that we paved that road to a width of 28 feet. Today's GIS records say, and we confirmed it, 19 feet wide. So not that I don't want to make friends with 50 Mike Bloombergs down there, but something's going to have to be done. That the conflict with pedestrians and motor vehicles and then the commercial vehicles there, it's what will we do when it goes from pavement width from 28 feet to 19 feet?
Wow.
So I saw the sign too.
Yeah, 118, yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you
All
very
right.
much. You know where I am,
Wait.
728-3600.
Question,
Thanks, Al.
just circling back around to
Sure.
Little Fresh, and I noticed that you put in the drainage on Edge of Woods, and I
Yeah.
was so grateful to see that. And I know you did similar work on Deerfield, and that a while ago, but
Yes.
it's been very helpful with Mill Pond.
Yes.
Is there any way do you have any kind of numbers for how much runoff is captured by those drainage? So in other words, to reduce what's going into those ponds? Because I'm just wondering if those kind of numbers might lead to some sort of funding.
Right.
Because
Well,
of
I
the
believe that
reduction in runoff.
Christine Fenton, the town engineer, was big involved in that, and I think there was clean water money from Suffolk County used. What we have is two things. We have the road runoff. On top of that, we get the agricultural runoff. Sometimes we're able to handle it all. Other times, when it's frozen, the farm fields are a parking lot, and we get a tremendous amount of runoff. We worked with Adam Halsey quite well, because in the winter, again, you can't stop that runoff, but he has been putting up some hay bales and that. To tell you how much water, it handles a lot. It's more drainage probably than we have in any other site in the town, but it's a combination of trying to catch the watershed
Right.
and the roadway runoff on it.
And so is it helpful when you're vacuuming out those drainage basins? Does that make a difference in
Yes.
how much is?
Well, a few things happen. One, the Polo Club down there, just north of Hedda Pond, that's no longer farm field, it's paddock. So that takes a lot of the silt. It's when the farmer or people doing the McMansions chop up the shoulders of the road and turn it into mud and the topsoil goes in. Yes, so sometimes it takes that much of topsoil to plug and then the drain from stopping to
Makes it
do
hard.
its thing.
Water can't go through.
Right.
The big thing is we have 3,000 things to clean in the town, and since I came in, I got up to 650 drainage structures. It used to be 250 before I took over. So that's where we need the help and the maintenance of cleaning these drains, because one bad storm with agricultural runoff, the structures in the ground weren't meant to handle agricultural runoff.
Right.
Like, as you know, there might have been a story in a newspaper about Narrow Lane South, and that's 100-foot wide drainage easement where that's where the farm runoff has gone for
Right.
200 years, and it has a chance to take up, so it's hard, that's, we asked the town for some money to help a contractor look at these drainage structures and try to line them, video them, clean them, but, with the spending cap.
And do you have the Fabco filters in any of?
No, not really. Where we do have problems, like we have one of the vortex that I was talking about, and that's in Remsenburg at the end of Clay Pit Road and Remsenburg Main Street. There is one there. But no, we try to depend on the natural soils to try to take it up, or vegetation.
Because just in short conversations with the Fabco salesperson and a gentleman from East Hampton Village, they're using some of those filters, and they're helpful in terms of bacteria and so forth,
Right.
absorbing bacteria so it doesn't go into the ponds. And I think there's funding through the MS3 impaired
Water bodies, yeah.
Yes, so that was what the gentleman in East Hampton, I'd be happy to
Sure, I'd like to, yeah.
connect with you about that.
And the problem would be maintenance. After one storm, you have
That's
to,
exactly
you
what
have
he
to
said.
be there.
Every
You
storm,
see the
every
leaves
time it
pile
rains.
up on the drains, so
But
it
it
is
does make a
labor
difference.
intensive. Yeah, well, sure.
But if there's money for it, maybe.
Yeah, we'll take it, sure. Spend it. So other than that, we're looking to do as much as we can this year, and we appreciate your help and support, and we do it. The sea level rise is just a terrible issue to deal
Wasn't aware
with,
of that.
and then the rain on top of it. So thank you very much for your time.
That's cool.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Alex.
Good.
We can actually have them amend that.
Any more public comments? Okay. Let's go into the application for permits. Okay. First resolution, 2019-389, application of Tommy Rosenfeld and Deborah Good Rosenfeld on 44B Basket Neck Lane. Ann was handling this for a while. You're okay with it also?
I am, yes,
Okay,
we
well, I'll
went
make-
through it extensively. There's some back and forth between the applicant and ourselves.
Okay.
So we're happy with it.
Well, I'll make the motion that we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next one is trustee resolution 2020-14 for the application of Bonnie Corin, 17 Pine Tree Lane, West Hampton, New York. We discussed this at length last week. The applicant changed the cover sheet. Everything's in order right now, so I'll make a motion to
I'll
be
second.
approved. All in favor?
Aye.
This is a renewal application we discussed last time at work session. Permit number GP 000040 of Richard Hassan, 24 Dune Lane, Village of West Hampton Dunes, New York. It's a renewal. Make a motion to be approved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2020-16, this is first renewal for permit number GP 000026, Rainer Schoenbach, 545 Sagaponack Road, Sagaponack, Suffolk County Tax Map 908-3-2.6. This property is located on Sagaponack Pond. This is a first renewal for construction of a proposed bridge to connect two properties. We vetted this extensively when it was first approved, and I recommend the renewal.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2020-17, applicant Joseph Giamalvo, 36 Shinnecock Road, East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map number 0900-384-03-58. Another application that meets Blue Book, vetted at work session. I recommend its approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got trustee resolution 2020-18, David Lee Radican is the applicant. Application of Michael Sheila Trachtenberg, 13 Romana Drive, Hampton Bays, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map 0900-257-3-14. Another project meeting Blue Book regulations, recommend its approval.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Trustee resolution 2020-19, Cracchiolo Family Irrevocable Trust, 8 Shinnecock Road, East Quogue, tax map 0900-384-03-38. Another project thoroughly vetted at work session, meets all Blue Book regulations, recommend its approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2020-20, this is warrant number 2 of 2020 for the trustees, in the amount of $709.56. Lisa, would you
Okay.
mind?
Certainly. Creative Safety Supply LLC, that's our stickers, ink, etc. $202.25. Safe Harbor Publications, Inc., $108.01. Staples, $91.11. Verizon Wireless, $285.93. WB Mason Company, $22.26, for a total of $709.56.
I'd like to recommend its approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next issue is trustee resolution 2020-21. This is under agreements, contracts, and leases. This authorize the continuation of legal services by Con and Con. This is for continuation of the West Hampton Dunes case that's been going on for a while.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2020-22, this is authorized purchase of buoys and marker materials.
Second.
It's under, Lisa, do you have a record of this that you read in, or?
It's, they have a current cooperative contract with Omnia Partners. I believe it's part of the Amazon Marketplace, and therefore, I believe it's an approved source under the...
Approved vendor?
Correct,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
And we discussed it last
Yes, we
meeting with the
did,
Bay
yes.
Constables, the need for
Mhm.
updating
The
the
buoys.
buoys and markers.
Yes, so I'd like to recommend its
Second.
approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2020-23, authorized purchase of labels and ribbons for the 2020 4x4 boat ramp, dock slip, and Lake Agawam stickers.
Second.
All in
We
favor?
We do get a pretty decent, by ordering in bulk, we receive
Right.
over a 10% discount, so.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got trustee resolution 2020-24. It's a resolution to authorize the Board of Trustees to waive the 2020 commercial aquaculture mooring application fee of $250 for the Peconic Baykeeper.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any other business that the board wants to discuss? Board members?
The discussion about Lake Agawam.
Oh, yes, that's right. Bill wanted to discuss that.
All the members got emailed the draft plan.
Mhm.
The DC would like you to have to go through it, and any things you want to change or don't like, let them know by Friday.
Okay.
By Friday.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk amongst ourselves.
They're gonna come March 2nd to discuss the whole plan
At our meeting.
at our meeting. So,
I thought it was
basically,
interesting what Kevin from the
yeah.
McAllister had to say about open water discharge of dredged water.
Basically, the DC was against that. He said that would most likely not happen.
It wouldn't work, huh?
No.
He was pretty emphatic about, his experience in prior permitting and,
Right.
Said not where it's coming from. Said
Okay.
it was like
All right.
Bay Bottom or something
I
else.
was going to say that. I don't think that would come together by Friday.
No.
No.
Basically,
Okay.
they just want you to look through it, and it's because it's a work in progress.
So it's like a draft, and
It's
they
like a
want
draft.
some
Draft.
additional comments.
Yeah.
It's a draft
Okay.
action plan with several short-term possibilities that would be enacted for this summer.
Okay. And then they're going to apply for a permit from us?
Yes.
That's why they're coming in
And
for
we'll
a
we'll be the
second
lead,
to discuss.
we'll be the lead
Discuss.
agency on it.
Okay, great,
Good.
great.
Right, because pretty much the feeling is without some action taken, there will
Be
be
a major bloom.
major harmful algal bloom
Oh.
yet again. And the numbers from each
Yeah.
year increase exponentially, with this past year being the,
Okay.
It's
the
a-
worst on
It's a
record.
public health hazard. It has to be
And-
dealt with.
and
You
Fresh
can't have
Little, Little Fresh Ponds, right, actually right ahead of this.
Yeah, huh?
So some of the stuff working here could work in Little Fresh.
Okay,
That's
good.
good. You got to eliminate the public health hazards. It's like very important.
With regard to these two items brought up during public comment on 437 North Sea Mecox Road, it looks like that's outside of the trustee jurisdiction. That's completely landlocked parcel. And what Marty said was pretty much correct. There were violations issued. That's what got them before the planning board. The planning board made the decision to approve the subdivision after a couple of years of going back and forth.
Well, we'll have to review to see if the pond is in the trustee inventory.
Some of
See
the
if we own
ponds,
the pond.
yeah, some of the ponds up there we own.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think what
Like
you said,
Goldfish
it
Pond
looks
we
like a
own.
kettle hole in there.
okay, yeah, we'll check it out.
And 88 Fantasy, there was a violation in there. I'll find out where that stands now. I sent an email to code enforcement guys, and once I know, I'll contact the
Great.
complainant, let her know.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
Rich. Doing a good job
Good
down
to
there.
have you here.
It's just a computer, makes it easy.
You have anything?
What I have is I think that the East Quad community is going to absolutely be thrilled because they've been, for as long as I can remember, advocating to get that Bay Avenue and fixed with the ramp and the pier and that whole grand plan with the Parks Department, and now with the Highway Superintendent coming to the table. I
Yep.
think that it's going to be a great project.
Yep.
We're very far along in that, and I think that's a great thing. I'm glad that Alex came today.
So we get a coffer dam in there, we actually pour one monolithic pour ramp that's on the right angle, and instead
Yeah,
of,
well-
we put the slabs down there, but, you know, that was a stopgap.
And the people are generally happy with the slabs, and I have to give the credit to the Marine Maintenance Department because their ability to be band-aiding that throughout the course of time, they've done a good job
Uh-huh.
with that.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten a tremendous amount of complaints from the folks using it. They've been very, very happy. It's one of the better ramps
Good.
in the town. But it is always a problem with the asphalt collapsing in because the kids love to go down there and go snapper fishing and crabbing. And the fact that we could remedy this, because I did go there with my little whaler and take a lot of pictures at the intertidal zone, and it's really bad when you get down there.
Blacktop gets very slippery.
And there was some holes there. I got some pictures I could show you on my phone that I took within the last couple of weeks of
I've
just.
seen them, yeah.
You saw it, right?
Yeah, I've been there.
Right. So to be able to remedy this is going to be really good.
Cool, very good. Anything else?
Are we going to executive session for?
Yes, I'm gonna make a motion to close the meeting and go into executive session to discuss litigation matters.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
But we have to let CTV know that we're going to come back into session to close the meeting. Is that right?
If they can accommodate that, we
Is
will.
that possible?
No,
We can give you a
you never
time.
know.
Feel free to give them the time limit.
Is it going to be really long?
I don't know, I have to explain the situation to everybody.
It's about, do you need
I mean,
half
we
an
just come
hour?
back.
Do you need-
Less than.
Well, because I don't know the shoot, so
All right. So we'll be expeditious.
When's the
Half
next-
hour at the max,
Okay.
20 minutes maybe.
20 minutes. Can you do that?
Charles, if we need you, where can I find you? You gonna be upstairs? All right.
Okay.
Okay,
We can text you or.
okay, then I
Thanks.
changed that to adjourn the meeting so we can go into executive session,
and then you're gonna come back.
and then we'll come back and close the
close
meeting.
it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, so
We'll
make
let
the
you know if
motion.
you're
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I'm going to make a motion that we come out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I make a motion that we close the
Second.
meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, meeting's closed.